I'm Frank Weeden, and I'm here with fellow author T.D. Cooper, and welcome to podcast number 5.
Podcast number 5. Hey, we're rolling.
How are you this morning?
I'm good. Call me Terry, and it's good to be here, Frank.
Good. Just as a very quickly, our links are down below to our respective author pages, and so anyway,
look us up. You can find us there.
Yep. So I'm going to move this back just a little bit. The question this morning is it doesn't matter what age you started reading, but what age or what author rather inspired you to begin writing?
I wasn't much of a reader when I was a kid. I was an outside person. And so to make me stop moving and go read was a real true test for my parents. I did start reading more when I got into high school, and I could sneak behind the whatever and read the flashy sex books that we were talking about last week.
Right.
I'd rather read them than write them, of course.
Right.
But so that got me a little bit interested in reading in general. And then I didn't start my writing career until I was in my 50s. And I broke my leg. And I couldn't do anything. So I had all these stories all my whole life running through my head. And so I started writing them down. And in the 6 weeks that I was in the cast, I wrote Second Chances, a book of choices. It wasn't good. It was really, really bad. But I wrote it. It was there. It was on paper.
Right.
And but what happened to me was I had been reading Twilight. And I know a lot of people go, but Twilight really inspired me in Stephanie Meyer and the way she writes, and that it doesn't have to be sophisticated, and you can write more of a kind of a general easygoing pace with not a lot of big fancy flashy words, and and that was me. That was more my style and the things I did end up liking to read, because I ended up reading Hunger Games, and I love it, and all the Harry Potter things, and they're more of a high school, junior high kind of a, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for,
It's written on
genre,
that level,
that suits my personality and my ability, I think.
Well, the thing I've discovered is that the bigger things that you write about, the more simply you write. In other words, if you're writing about this, like Ernest Hemingway, writing about his experiences in war, if anything, he's almost understated. But because of that, and his language is at times very sparse, and he doesn't use a lot of high-flung words, that writers that sit there and try and use these million-dollar words in place when simple words will suffice is actually the mark of an amateur.
Right. I've in all the studies that I've done since I decided to start writing down my thoughts and my stories, I found that to be very true.
Right. That you're not trying to talk down to your readers in any way.
No.
But almost all writing is written at a, between a junior high and high school level. I mean, obviously, if you're reading technical papers, medical essays, those kinds of things, you get into more technical jargon, but it still should be written simply enough that if somebody's familiar with the terminology or the anatomy in question, it is accessible.
Mm-hmm. So. I agree, and probably because I wasn't a very prolific reader when I was younger, and I only tried to read those books that they wanted you to read in school.
Oh, right.
You know,
And those
and
are
I couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't.
those are lousy usually. You know,
Uh-huh.
they're trying to ram classics down people's
It's
throats,
uh-huh.
and I mean I know.
I never loved to read. I never
Right.
liked it because of
Right.
that.
Well, you know, and I think Debbie agrees that when we were growing up, where we did, we had a outstanding English program. We did The Outsiders. We did Where the Red Fern Grows. We did Romeo and Juliet. We did Watership Down. We did just The Martian Chronicles. We did just a ton of books that were not these tired old classics. They were contemporary books. I mean, you know, and so that helped a lot. I think really fostered my love of reading.
Right.
So
My husband loves to read. He's been reading chapter books since he was 4 years old. So, and he's the sci-fi. So he likes that very detailed, very different kind of words and
right.
that kind of.
Yeah, you get into Heinlein and Asimov and some of these other guys that is extremely technical.
Yeah,
you know?
he likes that.
Right.
He's that kind of a reader. So, but then he likes a good fantasy too every once in a
Right.
while. So, but he reads constantly. He's always reading. But I'm not. But when I started to write, I started reading more and I started picking up more things. I started reading a lot of how-to books.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of those out there, you know, how to write a fight scene, how to write a love scene, how to write a, you know.
Right.
And some of them have some really good information. But I found that Stephanie Meyer really inspired me to pick up the computer because it could spell. And I'm not real good at that either.
Now the thing about Stephanie Meyer, just as an interesting aside, people's kind of poo-poo her trilogy, Twilight trilogy. But if you ever get the chance to pick up her book, The Host,
I've read it,
and it's about that thick. But
it's really good.
It is fantastically
really,
written.
really
It's a
good,
really excellent story.
But I like her style. I like the way she details. I like the way she
doesn't over
anything, and you leaves your imagination room to
yeah
grow with the story.
Right. And that's similar with the Harry Potter books. You know, it's just very, like, you can see it unfolding in your mind's eye.
Yeah.
So.
And that's what I strive for. That's what I'm hoping that I achieve when I write.
Right. My personal favorite, I guess, and I mentioned the Martian Chronicles earlier, but because I'm a short storyist, short story writer, probably my two favorites. I have three, but really my top favorite is probably Ray Bradbury. I mean, the man made a living. I mean, he wrote some books, but he wrote hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of short stories. And wow, I mean, just everything from exploring Mars to you know, visiting the carnival. You know, or the traveling fair that comes to town. You know, Something Wicked This Way Comes, and all of these other.
Oh, did he write that?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, it's just what a fantastic author. You know.
Yeah. No, I've heard him. I've heard the name a lot, but I've never delved into any of his things.
Bruce, now being a sci-fi buff, would probably be very familiar.
I think that's probably where I've seen the books on the shelves.
Yeah. Well, Bradbury's.
My house is covered in books.
Bradbury's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think when he passed, I think we lost a national treasure.
Yeah.
So, and he's got some YouTube videos on, you know, where he's giving lectures on writing, and I'd like to go back and revisit those actually.
That'd be interesting.
Then Joe Hill is another one that has really inspired me. I think he got his start as a self-published author.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know that for a fact, but I think so. But he's really, really good. Kind
What
of
does he write?
little creepy.
Yeah.
Like this guy orders a heart-shaped box off of eBay in one of his stories, and the box is said to contain a ghost.
Oh, cool.
And so he opens the box. He's like, "There's nothing in here," whatever, and all of a sudden things start happening.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a cool premise.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, that is real
that
cool.
really appeals to me. And then I really he's definitely not everybody's cup of tea, but Chuck Palahniuk, and he's very very punchy. I mean, it's very almost pretty grisly actually, but his short stories are really awesome. And then the last one, of course, is oh my God, he wrote Virtual Light. Um, oh my gosh, I got his name on the tip of my tongue.
It'll come back to you.
Yeah.
Don't think about it so hard.
He wrote Virtual Light, Burning Chrome, um, William Gibson.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of the inspiration behind like my sci-fi story Alt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so kind of
That's the one Bruce likes, isn't
yeah,
it?
kind of a cyberpunk sort
Yeah.
of. And so what other authors have you read that you really
I like
enjoy?
well, back in the day I liked Rosemary Rogers. That's where I really started to read some of her stuff.
What did she write?
She wrote that porn.
Oh.
And it wasn't. I don't know if we call it porn or not, but
She erotica.
erotica. Yeah. It's about the pirates and the stealing the girls and the. That's what a lot of her stuff was that. And then I've read most of Cornwell's.
Oh.
Patricia Cornwell.
Yeah.
I love her stuff. I love that long story that she has going. Forensics and the.
Oh yeah.
And I like that kind of stuff. That's about as technical as I ever want to get. But I like the medical and the autopsies, and I like that kind of morbid stuff too.
The an author you might like then is Karen Slaughter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Karin Slaughter.
Okay.
But she writes a lot of. It's a mystery, but it's also brings in forensics and everything.
Yeah, that's what
yeah.
Patricia Cornwell does.
Yeah.
It's she's the coroner, the head dude,
Yeah.
of the FBI, and she goes out and tries to solve all these murders.
Right.
And it can get kind of graphic, but that is about as technical as I wanted to read. And when I was reading her stuff and back then and thinking about writing, never thought I could do it because
she's really good.
She's really good,
and she writes about about a world that most people don't have intimate knowledge of. But because she doesn't sit there and belabor every little detail of everything. She just kind of gives you a window into it without,
She does, and she holds my. She's one of those writers where I'll stay up till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning reading the book until it's done.
Right.
I'm not very good at setting something down, so I have to read it all right now.
And kind of because I decided to try my hand at writing romance and that kind of thing, I really like Nora Roberts. So hopefully.
See, I've never read any of Nora Roberts. I need to.
Yeah, but Nora Roberts is good in a way that it's not. The aim of the story isn't to get these two people together necessarily. It's like these two people get together in the course of the story.
Yeah.
That the romance and all that is it's the story is the backdrop, and yeah, they get together or whatever, but the plot still advances.
Well, how's Danielle Steele compared to those? Because I've read a couple of hers too.
It's been so many years since I've read anything by Danielle Steele. So
my mom loved Danielle Steele. She read everything she ever wrote.
I think I read a novel of hers like years ago, but I don't remember it very well.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you any backstories except one about an artist in Sausalito. That's the only thing I remember. But anyway, but yeah, I like that more simple, and that's what inspired me to get my ducks in a row and being laid up, and it just kind of all fit. So I'm kind of a late bloomer when it comes to writing, late starter, and I've been read someplace where late starters, older people don't ever get read.
That's
because
not true.
you don't. I know, because you don't. You're too afraid to put your experiences, or write down what you actually think.
Right. Well, the
And I don't find that my case at all.
right. Well, I read a quote by somebody else that said that a writer before the age of, like, almost every great writer has turned out their seminal works after the age of 40.
Really?
Yeah, because they get all of their hormonal and primal urges out of the way,
Yeah.
and then finally it's like, okay, let me
Get
sit
serious.
down. Yeah, let me sit down and concentrate on turning something out. But of course,
Finishing something.
I've also heard that you before you turn anything of quality, usually you write about 400,000 words, and then finally you're like, okay,
Yeah.
I
I know that first book I wrote was really, really bad.
it was fine.
It wasn't, no. I think the first one you got, I'd even changed 2 or 3 times. But when I wrote that, I didn't even know how to. I mean, I knew how to. I had a really good English teacher,
Mm-hmm.
and she taught us how to construct a story.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that much. I knew pretty
That's
much how to do
amazing.
paragraphs and that kind of stuff. My spelling is really bad. My punctuation is worse. But thanks for your help.
Everything can be fixed in the editing.
Yeah.
But
I rewrote that story about 5 or 6 times.
right. That kind of brings to mind another topic, really, and it's just kind of the difference between being a writer, okay, versus being a storyteller.
Uh-huh.
And so. But anyway, that's probably another conversation for another time.
day.
Alrighty. Well, Terry, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you for having me, and everybody go out there and read, and don't be like me, start early.
I always enjoy our conversations.
I do too. Thank you very much, and everyone have a great week.
Yeah.